The fire had taken everything. Catherine and Brian stood in the cold ash, and she made a choice no one expected.
We're not building another cabin. We're building an Earthbag dome.
By noon, the general store buzzed with the news. Harris leaned on the porch and laughed.
A dirt igloo? That foolish woman is going to bury herself alive. I'll bet a month's wages it collapses before the first snow.
It won't burn again. That's enough for me.
She walked to the field, picked up a dirtied sack, and began filling it with earth.
Let them laugh. Let them bet. I'll build the one home that lasts.
Brian picked up a shovel and began to dig alongside his sister. The first Earthbag hit the dirt with a heavy thud, and the real work began. Day after day, Catherine and Brian spaded a circular trench into the frozen ground, tracing the outline of a dome most called madness.
Catherine, the whole town's betting against us. Harris says he'll bring a shovel to dig us out.
Let him bring it. He'll need it to dig himself out of his own collapsed roof.
Between each course of earth-filled bags, they laid double strands of barbed wire, a simple grip that would hold the weight.
The wire turns stacked bags into a single mass. It's the tension that makes it stand.
Maybe she's right. This isn't just piles of dirt. There's a science to it.
They're building a molehill to live in. Mark my words, it'll be their grave.
Catherine mixed red ochre with linseed oil and, with a steady hand, painted a bold arrow on the rising wall.
Why red? Why an arrow?
It marks the true south, where the sun hits hardest. The arrow will guide every course.
Wet snow arrived, but they kept stacking. The earth turned to sticky mud, yet the dome rose.
The bags are saturated. If they freeze, the whole wall could crack apart.
We tamp them harder. The water squeezes out. The mass will settle and lock.
A hard overnight rain swelled the southern wall. By dawn, a section had sagged outward, threatening to collapse.
The trench wasn't deep enough. Water pooled and softened the foundation.
So it's failing. After everything, Harris was right.
It's telling us where to improve. We'll pack a gravel drain and repack the course.
They worked through the gray afternoon, and by evening the wall stood solid, reinforced with packed stone.
Patched dirt won't hold a freeze. First real snow. That molehill will split open.
Winter closed in, but the dome kept rising. The town had already made up its mind. The last Earthbag was tamped into place. The dome stood complete, its curved shape catching the dying light.
It's done. A home that won't burn, won't rot, and won't bend to any ordinary storm.
Inside, the soft candle glow revealed the raw earth walls, but the air was oddly warm, almost gentle.
It's holding the heat. Already feels different from any cabin I've known.
That night, a quiet snow began to fall. By morning, every pitched roof in the valley wore a thick white cap.
Look at the roof. The snow slid right off. Nothing is sitting on our walls.
It's working, isn't it? The shape is shedding the load.
One flake doesn't make a blizzard. That mud hut will drown come a real storm.
He won't see the truth until his own roof caves in. Fine, we'll be ready.
The first true test was yet to come, and the whole valley was placing bets on its failure. The storm hit at midnight, howling and dense. By dawn, the dome still stood, but a wall of snow had buried the door.
The entrance is blocked solid. We'll have to dig our way out.
And pray the wall didn't take any damage.
They tunneled through the drift, cold and wet, until they broke into blinding daylight. The dome was unscathed. 50 yards away, old Carlson's tool shed had collapsed under the weight, its roof splintered like twigs.
That could have been us. The dome shape really works.
One storm doesn't prove a thing. A real blizzard will crush that dirt pile.
But a few neighbors glanced at the unbroken dome with something other than amusement.
They're starting to see. Not all of them, but some.
The deep cold was still coming, and Harris's bet was far from settled. A hard freeze followed the snow, locking the valley in a crust of gleaming ice.
Hear that? The ice is sliding off the curve. The shape is doing its work.
Every crack rings through my skull like a warning.
The dome shed its icy shell, piece by piece, untouched by the weight that crushed lesser roofs.
I am doubling my bet. 2 months' wages says that dirt pile won't see spring.
More men put money down. and the weight of their disbelief pressed harder than any snow.
The whole town thinks we're fools. Maybe they're right.
They can think what they want. This dome has already proven itself to me.
But every time the ice cracks, it feels like a countdown. What if the next one is the end?
Winter tightened its grip, and the real storms hadn't even begun. A week of brutal cold gripped the valley, yet inside the dome, the air stayed warm enough to sit in quiet comfort.
40 below outside, and we haven't used extra wood. The earth holds the heat.
Then the sound of splintering wood echoed across the valley. Another roof had failed under the ice load.
That's the third this season. What if the dome can't take the next one?
I checked the crown this morning. There's a slight depression. The snow has been pressing down.
A depression? That's how a roof collapses, Catherine.
Not if we reinforce it now. Barbed wire around the top course will spread the load.
They looped wire around the dome's highest ring, pulling it tight until the earthbags locked together.
We're patching again. How many times before the patch gives way?
The repair held, but the doubt never left. The real monster hadn't arrived. The skies cleared briefly, and Catherine spread her hand-drawn blueprints across the table, ready to explain.
The shape is a catenary curve, like a hanging chain flipped upside down. It pushes weight outward, not downward.
So the snow never sits. It slides off because the walls lean outward. Finally, it makes sense. Every piece, the curve, the wire, the arrow, it's not luck.
A woman from the valley knocked on the door, not to mock, but to ask how the dome stayed so warm.
The Earth mass is a slow battery. It drinks heat from the sun and releases it through the night.
She left with a thoughtful nod, and a few others began to glance at the dome with something closer to respect.
A warm room don't mean it can survive a beast of a storm. They'll all learn.
She's won over no one but a handful, but that's a start.
The cold returned, and with it the rumor of a storm like none the valley had ever seen. The storm arrived with a fury that rattled even the stoutest cabins in the valley. Inside the dome, the roar was deafening. The round window shattered inward in a spray of ice.
Catherine, the glass, it's shattered.
I'll need the canvas and nails from the supply chest. Now.
She leaned into the screaming wind, tacking the heavy canvas over the gap until the storm could no longer enter. For 2 days, the storm hammered the valley without mercy. When it cleared, the dome stood. But the valley wore fresh scars. More roofs had collapsed under the weight. Harris came himself, trudging through deep snow. He stared at the dome, then at the wreckage around, and said nothing.
He didn't speak. He just looked at the walls, then walked away.
The dome had passed the test, but the whispers of a far greater storm grew louder with every passing day. At the general store, old-timers spoke in hushed tones of the White Death, a blizzard that struck every 50 years, burying entire homesteads.
The signs are all there. The sky, the silence. If that storm hits, nothing made of wood will stand.
Catherine was there, buying nails. She listened, her hand tightening on the counter, knuckles white.
They're talking about this dome. No, they're talking about me. The White Death is coming, and they expect me to run.
If you've got any sense, you'll leave that dirt pile and come into town.
I am not leaving. This dome was built for the worst, and I'll trust it.
Then you are a fool, and you'll die a fool.
She's not alone. I am staying. We'll prove the dome can take it.
The town weighed the bet in silence, but the sky was already turning the color of bruised iron, heavy with unshed snow. The decision was made. Come what may, they would face the storm inside the dome, and no one would convince them otherwise. Inside the dome, they worked by lantern light, bracing the door with extra planks and checking every seam.
The red arrow isn't just for the sun. I watched the wind for months before painting it.
The wind? You never said.
The arrow points straight into the prevailing wind. It won't just shed snow, it'll steer the drifts away from the door.
Every detail, the curve, the wire, the arrow, it's all planned. She thought of everything.
They hammered the last brace into place and closed the heavy wooden door, sealing themselves inside. The first gust hit the walls with a low moan, and the dome answered with a soft, unyielding silence.
It's starting. Stay close to the stove and keep your ears open.
Outside, The wind sharpened, raking the valley with a sound like something living. The white death was coming, and only the dome stood in its path. The wind turned into a scream. The walls shivered, and a deep bass groan traveled through the earth.
That's the shape working. The wind is riding the curve, not slamming a flat wall.
It sounds like the whole dome is going to lift off the ground. Are you sure it won't?
That's the wind shedding, not load. The weight is pushing down and out, not up. It's locked.
Then everything stopped. The wind died so suddenly that the silence rang in their ears like a struck bell.
It's the eye. The storm hasn't passed, it's resting. The worst is coming.
The silence is worse than the screaming. At least when it howls, we know it's alive. Now it's just waiting.
Through the window, the snow stood motionless in the air, as if the world itself held its breath.
Get more wood, the cold will follow.
The second wave was gathering, and when it struck, there would be no more warnings. The second wave hit like a physical blow, and the window frame split with a sound like a gunshot. A blade of wind and ice cut through the gap, and the warm dome turned frigid in seconds.
The frame gave way. We're breached.
Brian, get the oilcloth from the chest. Quick, before the cold kills the fire.
She shoved the bench forward, pressing its weight against the gap, while snow whipped around her. Outside, through the roaring wind, a deep groan rose, then a shattering crash that buried every other sound.
That was a house. Someone's house. It's gone.
Keep your hands moving. The dome's still holding. We are too.
Catherine hammered the last nail through the oilcloth, sealing the hole. The immediate danger was past, but the storm screamed on, and they knew the night was far from over. They huddled near the stove, the shriek of the wind a constant companion while the hours passed in darkness.
I have to say it. All these months, I never fully believed. I thought you were wrong.
I know, Brian. I saw it in your eyes when we started, but you stayed anyway.
She knew all along. And she never held it against me. That cuts deeper than any doubt.
Catherine stirred the embers and spoke of the fire that took their first home, the smell of smoke that never left her memory.
This dome isn't just walls. It's proof that we can build something the world says shouldn't stand.
A sudden deafening crack split the air outside. Brian lunged to his feet, face pale.
What was that? Is the dome failing?
Number, that was a tree. Just a tree, too much weight on its branches.
They sat back down, the tension easing, but the edge of fear never fully dulled. Sometime in the deep night, the wind's scream began to falter, dropping to a low, uneven moan.
Listen, the pitch is changing. It's losing its power.
Is it over? Are we through it?
The snow no longer pounded the roof. The furious hiss softened into a whisper, and then, nothing.
It's past. But we won't know what's left until light comes.
The waiting is worse than the storm. Are we buried alive under 20 feet of snow?
They sat without speaking, listening to the heavy silence, straining for any sound of the world outside.
If the door is buried, how long until the air runs out?
The dome breathes through the top course. We won't suffocate, but we might be trapped for a while.
They waited, the silence stretching into an hour, then another, with no promise of dawn. A thin seam of gray light appeared at the edge of the door, the first sign of a world beyond the darkness.
Brian, light, the sun is up.
They tore at the snow, packed against the frame with bare hands, until the latch could move. The door groaned open, and a wall of white collapsed into the dome, spilling cold light across the floor. They stumbled out, blinking into a glare so sharp it stung, the dome curving above them, untouched.
It held. The dome held.
The landscape was transformed into a frozen sea, every fence, every rock swallowed under deep drifts.
I can't see any other buildings. Nothing.
We need to get higher. The ridge will show us what's left.
They began to wade through the deep snow, the dome shrinking behind them, a lone dark curve in a white world. They reached the ridge, and the sight below stole their breath. The valley was a graveyard of timber.
Every roof. Not one is standing. They're all just crushed.
Chimneys poked from the drifts like tombstones. Beams lay splintered where walls had buckled, and then, in the distance, untouched by the violence, the dome rose like a smooth dark egg in the blinding white.
It took the worst the sky could throw and never flinched.
She was right. All those bets, every laugh, none of it matters now.
The red arrow on the dome wall caught the low sun, a defiant mark against the white destruction.
The only shelter for miles. Let's go see if anyone is left.
The sight of the dome, alone and unbroken, stayed with them as they walked, proof that the world had been wrong. They found Harris digging through his collapsed home, the shovel he'd promised for them.
You said you'd dig us out. Looks like you need that shovel more.
More men appeared, and their muttering died when they saw the dome behind her. One of them whispered, "It's still standing," and no one had an answer.
There's something you all should know. The design was Catherine's. Just hers. I only stacked the bags she told me to.
They see it now. They see whose mind really built this.
Harris looked at her, and his silence weighed more than any bet he'd placed.
She studied the wind for months. That red arrow, that was her compass, not mine.
The men who had laughed now circled a woman whose idea had saved her.
Show us. If we're going to survive the next winter, we need to know how.
Catherine nodded once, and Brian handed her the shovel.
The first thing is the trench. It has to be deep enough to freeze-proof the base.
She knelt in the snow, demonstrating the angle, the tamping, the wire.
They're not laughing now. They're leaning in, asking questions.
The red arrow on the dome wall caught the light, a permanent lesson in the direction of the wind. Each day, fresh boot prints packed the snow from the town to the dome. The dome became a classroom, and the woman who built it became the teacher.
The storm took everything from them. But it gave me this, a voice that finally gets heard.
And the red arrow, once a mystery, now pointed the way forward. Spring broke the valley open. Meltwater carved runnels through the snow, and the first green pushed through the thaw. Beside the original dome, 3 smaller Earthbag structures now rose, built by the same men who once bet against it.
It still feels strange, seeing other domes, like the valley finally listened.
They didn't have a choice after that winter. The proof is carved in snow.
The red arrow had softened to a rust-colored stain, but it still pointed true south.
It held. Against everything, it held.
Inside their home, Catherine and Brian shared a quiet laugh, the memory of the fire finally softer than the warmth of the walls. The dome no longer looked like an experiment. It looked like the beginning. Children played around its base, and the valley rebuilt, not with hurried wood, but with patient earth, and the woman they doubted now stood at the center of it all. Not needing to speak, by summer, the valley hummed with birdsong, and the dome stood at its heart. No longer a curiosity, but a landmark. Harris, his beard whiter, passed Catherine on the path, and nodded, not with words, but with eyes that held no more contempt.
The old fire doesn't burn when I close my eyes. It's just gone.
The townspeople had taken to calling it Catherine's Arch, though she never asked for the name.
An arch is just a curve that learned to hold itself up. Maybe that's all any of us are.
Children ran laughing around the base, tracing the red arrow with small fingers.
They'll never know what it took, and that's the point.
The red arrow, now a faint blush on the earth, pointed south, toward the sun, toward the future, and the storm that shattered the valley had become the thing that built its shelter. They said it would collapse. The deadliest blizzard left it standing, and her with it. The dome never crumbled. Season after season, it watched the valley rebuild around it. The red arrow, now a faint scar on the earth, still pointed where the wind would come. Storms still came, howling down from the ridge, but they met a shape that refused to break. Inside, the walls held the memory of the sun, giving back warmth long after sunset. The laughter had long since faded. Only the curve remained, and in the stillness after every storm, the dome stood, silent, certain, permanent. A woman had listened to the wind, and the wind had answered. The deadliest blizzard in memory left its mark on the valley, but not on her home. And so, the dirt igloo outlasted them all. The screen fades to black.